Hi guys, it's time to start our very next unit, and that unit is actually going to be the 1920s, my favorite possible chapter out of all American history. I think you guys are really going to love it. The first thing I kind of wanted to do is kind of let you guys listen to, basically, in my opinion, the song that sums up the 1920s. And to do that, I just went onto YouTube, I love it, and just typed in 1920s, and the move, or the dance move actually is called, you might have heard of this before, it's called actually the Charleston. So I'm just going to play this for you, only the first couple 20 seconds, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but when you think of the 1920s, I want you to think of this song. Does it sound familiar? You may not have heard it before, but actually that song basically sums up pretty much the entire 1920s. And actually that Life magazine is ironically the exact magazine cover that I have taken and started the PowerPoint with of the Jazz Age or the 1920s. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take and I want you to get out your notes. I want you to follow along with me. We're going to do 3 15-minute segments like always. Remember, it is your responsibility to come to class with working knowledge of these notes the very first day of the unit. And by working knowledge, what I mean by that is actually I need you to know details from these notes. I need you to know basic concepts, basic vocabulary, basic stuff from the notes. Of course, the detailed knowledge will come on test day, but I think these videos are really going to help you guys kind of get a working knowledge of the content. Then when you come into class, I will be there to help you to get into a deeper knowledge of the content, so you can hopefully make that $3,000 or $4,000 for college credit. So get out your notes, the Jazz Age, or sometimes as we will call it, the Roaring 1920s. Now, one thing that was definitely very apparent when we watched that little video there is that magazine cover, the cover of Life magazine, is actually literally the exact same cover that I have here on my PowerPoint. Life, literally, it's called The Spirit of what? 26, the 1920s. This cover of Life magazine, in my opinion, sums up a lot of the 1920s. Is why I want to take a second for you to look at it. You have, of course, does anybody know what this is right here? Saxophone, and then of course you have the drummer, and then you have this very chic girl right here, very short haircut, very kind of especially for the 1920s, scantily clad. She's got her stockings, or if you will call it her pantyhose, rolled down, and you can actually see her knees, and she has some blush on her face, which back in the 1920s that pretty much meant you were well, there's a couple words for it, but meant you were a liberal lady back in the 1920s. We're actually going to find out she's called a flapper. Now, what I do want you to do is make sure that if you get to a slide that has a lot of writing on it, go ahead and pause the PowerPoint or the video real quick, get down your stuff, and then push play again and kind of listen to what I'm talking about. Because remember, you got to come with a working knowledge of this to class. First slide, it says consumerism right here. I want you, like always, take and circle the root word consumer. Consumer. So what does it mean to consume? Are you thinking about it? Consume. To consume is to take in, right? The opposite of consume is to, if I'm not a consumer, I'm a producer. So consumerism in the 1920s is actually where we take and we are going to be consuming products. One of the things that could really help you out when it comes to thinking about the 1920s is you have to think about what came right before the 1920s. World War I, right? During a wartime economy, remember how we talked about everything that we had been doing to kind of prepare for war. We'd been rationing. We'd been buying Liberty bonds. We'd been enlisting in the Army, selective service. We'd been, taking and giving everything we had to win the war effort. But when the war is over in 1918 and, the Treaty of Versailles ends the war, even though we didn't sign it, remember? You got to think about the fact that we just fought a war. You just went through hell. What do you want to do? You want to party. You want to do what you want to do. And for women, that normally means shop. So appliances, automobiles. Anybody want to take a guess on the number one automobile we're going to talk about? The Model what? I hope you said T. Advertising. You got to think about it. If people are taking and buying, that means they're going to be advertising. Here's a really good example of a lot of the 1920s advertising. You've got the vacuum, the stove, the iron, the coffee pot, the sewing machine, all that kind of stuff. But here's the one thing I want you to star. Big old star right here. Buying on credit. What does that mean? That means you're buying on credit. That means you owe money, which means you go into the dirtiest four-letter word there is. What do I always say? The dirtiest four-letter word there is debt. That's right, D-E-B-T. So out beside that, star it, put debt, and then, of course, this is when we start to see chain stores like Montgomery Ward's, like Sears, kind of stuff like that get really big. One interesting thing on this, and I don't want to spend too much time, but if you'll take a look at this billions of dollars consumer debt 1920 to 1931, you'll notice that consumer debt goes from $3 billion to $7 billion, almost doubles in debt for each consumer, which is scary because you know what's coming in 1930, right? The Great Depression. Now, consumerism, the rise of the automobile. Out beside this one, what should we write out? Slide. What's the number one automobile they purchased? The Model T. Good. Increase in sales. This is just kind of a numbers page. So pause it, get the numbers down, then turn it back on. 1913, 1.2 million were registered. So that's right before the outbreak of World War I. By 1929, 26.5 million were registered. Almost one car per family. 1 million to 26 million. That's a massive jump in 15 years. The car starts taking over our life. It replaces basically the railroad as the key promoter of economic growth. So instead of railways now determining where cities are, highways are going to, things like that, roads, steel, glass, rubber, gasoline, highways, all that kind of stuff is going to go up because the automobile means we're going to be needing it. Daily life, commuting, shopping, traveling, and it says courting right there. I don't know if you know this, but courting is another way of dating. This is when actually we start to see dating in the United States. So the next time you take somebody out for a movie or go to dinner with somebody, think about it. If you were here before 1920, you probably didn't date. The automobile is what basically let that happen. Now, automobiles and industrial expansion, of course, we got to talk about one man, Henry who? Ford. Now, I know we talked about Henry Ford before this because of the assembly line, because of that kind of thing. But with this, we need to talk about the fact that he's going to create the Model T. And here it is, the Model T. The Ford Highland Park assembly line, 1928. In 1913, a car took 2 years' wages. Right? Remember, 1913, the year before World War I. By 1929, 3 months' wages. So instead of saving 2 years to buy a car, you had to only save 3 months. So that means it becomes more available to the average person. In 1913, it took 14 hours to build a new car. In 1928, Ford literally built one every what? What? Circle that. 10 seconds. They were popping off the assembly line like popcorn. And remember, when supply goes up, what happens to price? You're right if it says you said that supply went up and price went down. So when price goes down, Henry Ford makes it available for the average person. That's why we see the impact of the automobile. You see right here, it says literally right here, track goes down, kind of levels off. What happens to surface road building? Boom, crazy. Passenger train cars, look, you'll see that's blue. It goes boom, down like crazy. Nobody really travels on trains anymore, but look at what happens to automobiles. Up like crazy, okay? And it all starts basically in what's that year? 1920, the Roaring 20s, because the war's over, we want what we want, and that's the way we're going to get it. This is just kind of some examples of consumerism. I don't even know if I have this in your notes. How did he ever get the money to buy the car? The mom and the kids say looking out the window, oh, perhaps he didn't make as much as you do, but he took advantage of this quick and easy way to own an automobile, the weekly purchase plan. Guess what that is? That's credit. That means they're buying it on credit, which means they're going into, what is that word? Dirty four-letter word? Debt. Here's an advertisement in 1933 of a Dodge car. It's making it the cool thing to do. Oh my gosh, you have to get a car. And look at this. Every family, even with the most modest, meaning kind of regular income, can now afford a car of their very own. Every family should have their own car. You live but once. Yeah, you guys think that you invented YOLO? 1933, you live but once, and the years roll by quickly. Why wait for tomorrow when you can rightfully have it today? Kind of interesting to see there. Oh, this picture says it all. The Model T takes over. July 4th, early 1920s. This is Massachusetts. Bam! There is how many Model Ts are being built and purchased, and now we are having that leisure lifestyle in the 1920s. We fought the war. It's time to party. This is possibly also why bumper stickers were made, because who knows whose car is whose. All right, so here's a practice question. If you want to pause it, see if you can come up with the answer. I don't know. You might see it on a quiz. Go. All right, mass culture. Now, mass means at large. So circle mass means at large. 1920s, first commercial radio station hits. Now, here's something else that's important. The Model T is going to be important, but radio might be more important. I don't know. It's a toss-up. 1920, first commercial radio station, meaning for business. By 1930, there was over 800 stations, circle that, and 10 million radios in the United States. Networks like NBC, CBS, ABC, they start popping up. Here's the spread of radio by 1939. You can see that mostly it's in this area, and then California is taking off like crazy. But guys, you got to think about this. They're sitting here, they're listening to the radio. That means that everybody in the country has access to one radio station or 2 radio stations, which means not only is music going to spread, like that jazz I just had you listen to, but also you got to think about that news is going to be spreading, advertisements are going to be coming over the radio. Basically, it's the modern day TV, but back in the radio. You can see they're just watching the radio like it's going to do something. It looks crazy to us, but to them, you got to think about it. This is absolutely unbelievably amazing for them. Radio. Now, radio, here's just some details. I think these are in your notes, so let's pause it, get it down. All right, radio sets, parts, and accessories bought in 1922 basically equaled $60 million. 1922, $60 million. By 1923, $136 million. That market just doubled in 1 year. Then by 1929, just about 5 or 6 years later, 60 million to 852 million. And literally there was, here's what you want to circle, a radio reached every 3rd home in the first decade it was created. And again, here's more advertising showing that it's cool. This is radio. This is the thing to do. So you got to think about how we can spread news, music, culture, whatever it is, through the radio. Massively interesting to think about that now we are connecting the country as a whole. It's called a mass audience. Now with this, listening audience was, it says right here, 50 million by 1925. Literally, this is our version of a TV. Now, mass culture, movie palaces, talkies, Will Hayes. Here's the thing I think I have you guys writing. 80 million tickets sold per week by 1930 to movies. Now, again, I know that this is more of a social aspect. You think about your PIES, P-I-E-S, political, ideological, economical, social. This is probably going to be more social, guys, but you got to think about the fact that now we're having a radio. We're listening to music. We're going to the movies. Remember, it's a leisure time period. They were called talkies, actually, because, ironically, they really didn't talk very much. The sound was kind of off a little bit. This is when Charlie Chaplin comes into it. You got a little mustache, kind of those funny movies. But that's what we're kind of talking about in the 1920s. Oh, here she is. The flapper. All right, go ahead and pause and get this down. Okay, so the flapper here. All right, so with the flapper, you've got a woman that is portrayed, and the very interesting thing about this woman is that she is, well, look at this picture right here. First of all, you can see her arms. Have you ever been able to see arms on a woman in American history pictures before the 1920s? No. Next thing, you can see her knees. Have we ever been able to see women's knees? No. She has a short haircut. She is completely doing everything opposite than everybody we've ever seen in American history. The flapper sought, first thing, underline individual freedom. Known for her, I want to circle that bobbed haircut. This is a very, very short haircut. A lot of the times before this time period, women had very long hair. They sometimes put it up in, buns and stuff, especially when they were working in factories for safety, but they never had short cut hair. Well, a flapper, because of her crusade for individual and equal rights, because the fact that she wanted to kind of shun the cult of domesticity, remember? Cult of domestic home. She wanted to shun that. She wanted to get rid of it. She said, I'm my own woman. I want my own style. She does things a lot different. out beside the slide, you need to make sure you write makeup. You need to make sure